Hey folks, we're back. I'm your host, BKP. We're at Circuit World here in Blue Ridge, Georgia. It's now time for Ask the Doc with Dr. William Whaley. We want to thank North Georgia Cancer Research, affiliated with Northside Hospital. So Northside Hospital, we appreciate you for this segment. How are you today, Dr. Whaley?
I'm great, and yourself?
Great.
It's chilly on the porch, but it's nice out there.
It's okay.
I like it like this.
Yeah, it's
Fire in the fireplace weather.
Nice, raining a little bit, but you always give us
Still 6 inches behind in rain, and we're not going to catch up in the next 2 weeks. So
That's what I was getting
we're
ready
going to end the years behind in rain. Okay.
Now every time I hear it rain, I say, Dr. Whaley will give us our report.
Really happy about it, yeah.
All right, so anything before we start into questions?
We got such good stuff today. I'm not going to go into my political rant, or they're messing with my president, or I'm really the red wave in Britain, though. My man Boris, that red wave in Britain is nothing but, the sun rises in Britain 5 hours before it rises in the United States, right? Mm-hmm. And the political move in Britain happens about a year before the political move in America is going to happen. So that red wave they had yesterday in Great Britain is going to happen in the United States in November.
Well, I just, I watched the media and I thought it was funny because last week all of them were talking about how Boris is trying to stay away from Donald Trump because he's so unpopular. Well, Donald Trump went to Downing Street and had dinner with him, right?
Absolutely.
Last week. And Donald Trump has worked out an enormous trade deal that they're not going to talk about.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's not poison ivy that they're making him out to be. Anyway,
we better get to the question.
Boris, I like Boris. I
do too.
He goes to vote with that dog in his arms, and it looks like he didn't comb his hair. I just love the guy. Anyway.
Yeah, I got to give it to him. He's not interested in how he looks on the camera.
My English friend that used to meet once a month with the Prime Minister for 25 years does not meet with Boris, and he lives now in Monaco, and he just shakes his head. He says, Boris Johnson's too much like Trump.
Well, what is interesting, before we do move on, what is interesting is the way things work. Now, he will go to the Queen today, and the Queen will instruct him to
form a government.
Yes, and that's right. How it works. So he will go to.
Watch The Crown on TV.
I haven't missed one, but he will go. John Lithgow plays an amazing Churchill, did he not? Yeah, he knocked it. We got to get going here.
Let's go. All right.
I like that.
All right, I'm going to read the first one here. I'll save you the time and trouble.
Okay.
You have to put your glasses on to read this. All right. This question, I guarantee you, comes out of that thing a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about colonic polyp prevention, taking a baby aspirin. Remember part of the news?
Right.
All right. My sister is only 45 years old and had bad anemia that was iron deficient. It responded to iron in the vein. That was proper treatment. Her doctor is pushing her to have a colonoscopy and a stomach scope done. Is this necessary at this age? Now, she gives us a little more history. Our mother has polyps, and her mother had colon cancer in her early 60s.
Let me say a couple things here before you answer that, because reading this question and spending the last several years with you, there's three great things to work with: is her mother and her mother, and her mother having in the 60s, and the person asking the question 45. So that is a lot of good information to work backwards, is it not?
Absolutely. The one thing they left out was, how many times has the sister been pregnant, and is she still having menstrual cycles?
Ooh, okay.
So they left out a little bit of stuff. Okay, put up that first. This comes from this. You can't get in unless you're a member of the fraternity medical site that I've put you in before. But if you take a quick look at this long list, I don't expect anybody to do it, but talking about the initial evaluation of somebody with iron deficiency, which is what this question's all about, it then gets to the colonoscopy, talks about the various things that can cause iron deficiency. We're going to hone in on the colon and the stomach here in a minute. But if you look, and I don't know if you can see this, but Marathon running is one of them. Now, you would never think, marathon running? How in the world is that going to give you iron deficiency? One of the things people don't think about if when they're iron deficient is, look at that one, history of multiple blood donations. Okay, so this becomes first a matter of taking a good history. Marathon running iron deficiency anemia is akin to bongo players anemia. Did you ever hear of a bongo player with iron deficiency anemia?
No.
All right, bongo drums, you beat them like that. You hit your hand hard, it fractures the red cells in your fingers. They break, and therefore you urinate the iron out. It's not the normal way that a red cell dies so that the liver and spleen can reprocess it. The marathon runner who gets anemia is running 26 miles, pounding the ground with his foot, and I ran 40 miles a week for 40 years, right? That's a lot of pounding the ground. So your feet are doing what the bongo player did. The original anemia of fracturing the red cells with trauma was described in bongo players. I think they were Jamaican or something. And then they got to be a marathon runner. So just in terms of the many things that can cause iron deficiency, one thing I want you to take to the bank, you cannot become iron deficient in the United States, very rare exception, unless you are bleeding. Got it? You got to be losing iron somewhere, because all of our regular foods, bread in the pharmacy, in the grocery store, and everything else, is fortified with a little bit of iron. So all of this history that they're taking here is to figure out whether or not there is a clearly demonstrable historical fact that'll tell you where the blood was lost. So, if you're iron deficient and you have not been donating blood, and you're not a marathon runner or a bongo player, and you haven't been shot, stabbed, or operated on, then you must be bleeding in your GI tract. Anywhere else you could be bleeding? No. All right. So let's go to that next one that's got that big old chart there, because it's really kind of easy. Because on the left-hand side, they're talking about infants and pregnant women. We're going to forget that one. And then here they're talking about young females, and I'm going to call this woman at 45 a young female, okay? So they're going to go into a detailed medical and gynecologic history, that's heavy menstrual cycles. And we didn't get that information in the question, but we did get that information in what the doctor wants to do next, because he has now said two things. Over here, yeah,
and stomach scope.
Yeah, over here, so it says males, that's you. Any male, everything over here is women. Any male, complete GI workup. That's it. You're going to have a GI workup. And males, postmenopausal females, and then females in this category who have reasons, they must have a complete GI workup. Now, you can pull that down there, Lonnie, and leave things off for a minute. So complete GI workup means not that you collect that little thing and mail it in like you see advertised on television for screening for colon cancer. GI workup actually means a esophagogastroduodenoscopy, EGD, looking in the stomach and looking in the colon with a light. It can be both done on the same time. Insurance pays for it, but it is absolutely mandatory, because there's so many things that can cause you to have GI blood loss without a bellyache. And the most important one in the colon that can cause you to have iron deficiency, of course, is polyps or cancer. Now, we recommend doing your first colonoscopy at age 50, remember?
Right, yes.
This girl's 45. Well, even without iron deficiency, the recommendations, as I gave a few weeks ago when I was saying what tests does Ray Tidman or somebody recommend that you get for cancer screening, it has moved the age down to 45 in people with a strong family history of colorectal cancer or polyps. So even without the iron deficiency, yes, it's worth doing the colonoscopy on this patient. Now, I want to switch to iron deficiency alone in a minute because it's such an interesting topic. Put up those fingernails. Doctors today are trained to use this thing, a computer,
Right.
to make diagnoses. In my day, we were trained, you got the fingers up there, to make a diagnosis by history and physical examination, because we didn't have a computer and we didn't have all this automated laboratory and everything else. So I want you to take a look at these.
Let me see that.
Yeah, look at that there. You see those fingernails?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could be standing in the checkout line at the supermarket and see that fingernail, and you can tell that guy, that's normal here, spoon nails there. That's called a spoon nail there on your left. You need to go see your doctor. You may well be iron deficient. I actually have had the opportunity to be in the cafeteria line at Fort Gordon when I was a medical student, with a Army doctor trained in Puerto Rico, Puerto Rican origin, who made a diagnosis of leprosy on the back of the neck of a young paratrooper who looked like that. So if you really attune to diagnosis, it's amazing what you can do when you see people. Okay, show those two mouths, will you? Now, this is really not too, at this time of year, take a look at this. This time of year, there are a lot of people who get chapped lips, right?
Yeah.
You know, and particularly kids who lick their lips a lot. But if you look real carefully here, at the corner of the mouth, this is called angular stomatitis. At the corner mouth has a little crack. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not like a big old X on your face. But absent chapped lips or other causes that would make this part of something else, that angular chelosis, which is a crack at the corner of the mouth, can be a sign that that person is badly iron deficient. Okay.
Now, that's absent chapped lips.
Yeah,
so
chapped
right
lips or
now, I
something
don't
else.
have chapped
No, you
lips,
don't.
but if I had that,
If you had that,
I would be concerned because.
well, you would be concerned because you would know about it, but somebody else would tell you, go see the, yeah.
Right.
If you listen to this and you see that on somebody at your house, let them go see Ray Tidman or go see their local
Right.
doctor. All right. Now, there are a few things in the history that would turn you on to iron deficiency. Now, my wife swears that I have sound magnifier in my body, and that I like to chew ice. So when I'm getting a Coca-Cola or the lemonade at the Chick-fil-A, I chew it. And she says that makes a loud noise. But people who are eating ice excessively, that's called pica, P-I-C-A, generally that's associated with iron deficiency. Now, you've heard of people in South Georgia that are pregnant who eat dirt. White dirt is kaolin, red dirt is red clay. Those are signs of iron deficiency. So this tendency to want to eat something strange. I've had people that ate coffee grounds, canned peaches, ice, and all kinds of dirt. That's a historical feature. These are physical features that would tell you immediately they're probably iron deficient. So put up that last one, and then we'll move on. Treatment for iron deficiency is the next one. And basically it says women suffer more than men from iron deficiency anemia. So this was you can pull that off now. I just wanted to get that as an introduction. This is a woman. There are going to be a lot more women with iron deficiency than there ought to be men. There are going to be more men with colon cancer, but there are going to be a lot more women with iron deficiency than there are with men. Much of that will be related to the multiple pregnancies and menstrual cycles that they had. They can be 5 years post-menopause and still iron deficient because it takes a long time to recover just from multiple pregnancies. But if there's not a gynecologic sign of blood loss, and if you're male, it's GI blood loss, and yes, the scope should be done.
So the doctor, it's written, is pushing for this, what the doctor's asking they should go through.
Absolutely. And when they say pushing, I hate to say it, but we do have to push some people.
Right.
But we say, look, I don't want to drink that stuff. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And as I said a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about routine tests, the number of patients that I see with advanced colon cancer who are in their late 50s or beyond and never had that colonoscopy at age 50 would not be in that situation if they had had the colonoscopy. Well, you take that and multiply it by 100 if a patient had iron deficiency and then declined the offer of a colonoscopy, the chances that they've got colon cancer are huge compared to the average population.
Not to get sidetracked, but could you explain a little bit polyps, and are they dangerous?
Well, polyps. Polyps are little growths, and polyps are statistically associated with colon cancer, and there are different categories. There are, we won't mention who, but there's a member of your expert panel whose family history is very strong for colon cancer and who has polyps and has to have a colonoscopy every year or two because polyps are a precursor of cancer. So yes, if polyps are there, they need to be removed, and instead of telling you to come back in 10 years, like a negative routine colonoscopy at age 50, you're going to be back in 1, 2, or 3 years, depending on what the actual category of those polyps were. But it would never be longer than 3 years. So normal colonoscopy, come back in 10 years. Polyps come back in 1, 2, or 3, depending on what the pathology on those polyps were.
Okay, so, all right, thank you very much.
Oh, and 2 weeks ago, remember I said low-dose aspirin may not be, all the publicity about the low-dose aspirin not being good for everybody, don't worry about it, but they didn't mention the colon cancer. Remember, it decreased by 30%, the colon cancer. So the low-dose aspirin in this patient's whole family ought to be on low-dose aspirin or something like it.
Hey, folks, we want to thank North Georgia Cancer Research and affiliated with Northside Hospital. Thank you very much, Northside Hospital, for this segment. If you have a question for Dr. Whaley, send it to us at info@fetchyournews.com. Put in the subject line, Ask the Doc. Also, if you'll follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, you will see Ask the Doc posts throughout the week, and you can put a question there. Okay, our second question, very interesting, because it has the end, and I'll just say cause cancer. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and there's so many things now through developed research and study with people like yourself that we're starting to get more answers on causes than we did 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
Right.
And so do you believe that stress, anxiety, or emotional things can cause cancer? Are there any links there?
All right, I want you to read that again, real slow and real loud.
Do you believe?
Do I believe?
That stress, anxiety, or emotional things can cause cancer. Contributing factor.
All right, the answer to that question is no. But I'm going to present a whole bunch of information here.
Well, let me ask you before you do, because we're talking about, let's just say, emotional things, and emotional things, I don't want to say not medically, and physical things. They're two different separated things?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna link. There are going to be some links here in just a minute.
All right.
But I discussed this with multiple colleagues as I was putting this together, because this opens up this huge Pandora box of a little bit of information that is taken out of context and blown up and becomes sort of an internet or mythology, not unlike vaccinations. Put up that first one, will you? This is an American Cancer Society. I think this was an invitation actually to a meeting, but cancer is more than a physical fight, okay?
Okay.
Anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress can take a heavy toll as well. What that says is that if you've got cancer, now it doesn't say that anxiety, depression, or post-traumatic stress causes cancer. It says that if you've got cancer, cancer can cause anxiety and depression, and it can cause a post-traumatic stress.
So that we're supplementing cause with have.
Yes, you've got cancer, and now this, and then it says it's okay to ask for help. And this is the opportunity for people to go to support groups, or we have a psychologist, and in our practice, we've got people in the practice whose business it is to counsel patients and families about the anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress and all of the emotional things associated with cancer. So that is absolutely true, that cancer is associated with these things, but it's the cancer, these things that follow it, and they need to be addressed. So now go to the next one and to show this. That's a breast cancer. What does that say?
Emotional stress can cause breast cancer.
That is absolutely fallacious.
Is it?
Wrong. Totally 100% wrong.
Okay.
And the very next thing, now this is where they take a tiny bit of information and then blow it up with a bunch of hype and get people sucked in. Now turn to this next one, chronic effects of chronic stress on cancer. None of this is absolutely true. It begins by saying cortisol and adrenaline, those are stress hormones,
Right.
can increase insulin and blood sugar levels. We know that. I actually published that when I was a medical student doing research in obstetrics. They then go to say the increased insulin and blood sugar can cause cancer development or cancer growth. Well, that's that myth that you heard before, that sugars cause the cancer to grow. There's no truth to that whatsoever. And then that they can say that increases free radicals. Well, everybody's heard this stuff about free radicals, that pesticides cause. That is absolute, totally baloney. Suppress the immune system. That would have nothing to do in this situation with cancer growth. Turn off anti-cancer genes. There is absolutely no evidence that that's true, or increase tumor growth factors. No, absolutely that's true. But look at the what would you call that, trademark or whatever, that did this. Integrative Oncology Essentials. Now that doesn't sound like the Mayo Clinic, does it?
No.
That doesn't sound like the National Cancer Institute, does it? Pull that down, Lonnie. That sounds like a group of people that are in the business of perhaps selling supplements, antioxidants, or whatever. So let's go to this next one. We're going to flip through these. This is an entirely different set, but it is roughly the same set of chronic stress will cause this, and this, for which there's absolutely no evidence. You got that?
I see a stethoscope.
Yeah, they make.
And what is humorous to me is they make commercials all the time, and it seems like if they'll just put one person in scrubs with a stethoscope.
Yeah, or a white jacket.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So. Okay, so this is BS. This is the next. What do you call it? Visual that's in this series. And it says, understanding emotions and cancer, there's much more to cancer linked than bad habits. And this guy sitting at this peaceful site looking out over the thing there, it's just really, really good. But if you look at the bottom, it says alternativedoctor.com. What's an alternative doctor? Put up
Not you, for sure.
Put up that last one. I want you to look really carefully at this. The emotional reasons for cancer. What's that say? Chakra chart. You see this guy down here at the bottom in the yoga position? They've got the chakra that is out of whack that's causing the cancer is the 7th crown, the 6th third eye, the 5th throat. Now you got to admit that's way, way, way out there in
I got to look up my chakra chart.
Unsupportive chakra chart. Okay, now, so what I'm saying about this is, you got everything off the screen there, Lonnie? This is just one of a variety of cancer myths that everybody has heard, and the one that I find so much, I'll bet 3 to 5 times a year I have this scenario. A woman will come in with newly diagnosed cancer of the breast. It can be early stage and curable, or it can be a relatively advanced stage. And the history is my 80-pound dog jumped up on me 6 weeks ago and hit me in the breast with his paws and I got a big bruise over here, and it caused this cancer. Now, everybody has heard that myth that the dog hit them in the breast, and the breast got a lump in it, and that lump turned into cancer. What's the truth there? What is the truth there? You know?
It didn't cause it.
No, the bruise brought the attention of the patient to her breast.
Right.
And she kept looking at that bruise, and then as the bruise began to go away, underneath it's a lump. That lump was there when the dog jumped up there.
Right.
And now she's found it because she spent the last 2 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks looking at that bruise go away and thinks that the bruise is caused. So that's one of the common cancer myths that I link to this one about stress, anxiety, and emotional things causing cancer. Because if somebody has a great deal of stress or anxiety or emotional disability and goes to their family practitioner but seeking help, which is what they show on the very first thing here,
right.
But it's the other way around, and then he starts examining them and he says, oh my goodness, you got blood in your stool, or you got a lump in your breast, or a lump in your thyroid, and you've got cancer, then the whole family has got, if they go on the internet and sees on this, it was the stress that caused mama to get her cancer. So the basic answer to that question is absolutely not. The fact that you have cancer can cause you to have anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress stuff. Every cancer group has a significantly large support system in terms of support groups, professional psychiatrists, or mental health counselors like our daughter who's getting her master's degree that are trained to deal with the families and with the patients who have cancer and help them get through their emotional stress.
So there's what, let's see, my words here. There's no reputable study that supports this in any way of a sorry, there's no professional study or reputable study that you feel in any way is out there that says that it's a cause.
No.
None.
Absolutely not.
All right, I get it. Okay.
But that was there's a lot of stuff in there, right? That's controversial. My partners I discussed this with yesterday said, you got to be sensitive to I want to make sure, because obviously stress, anxiety, emotional things is very important, could cause other things, but not cancer. Yeah,
right.
But
then if you have cancer, these things.
Yeah, let's flip over to sudden onset of coronary disease.
Right.
You're a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
You suddenly get a heart attack, an angioplasty, or a bypass. It's not hard to say bypass and angioplasty is more than a physical fight.
Mm-hmm.
It can cause anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress. I mean, it's perfectly logical that, bang, you suddenly have heart disease in a normal life, that it would cause those things. Not those things caused the coronary heart disease. You're a perfectly normal guy today. I haven't seen any signs of depression, anxiety, or post-traumatic stress in you. But 2 weeks from now, if you have a heart attack this afternoon and get a bypass and stuff, you could easily get into that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I
thought it might.
No, those are very good questions.
Right.
And if you have a question for Dr. Whaley, you can send that to info@fetchyournews.com. Put in the subject line, Ask the Doc. Okay, it's that time of the week where we discuss any new things out there in the medical world.
I've got one really new one that I want to support really big time, and then I'm going to give you your Zika update, which now is not Zika, it's vape update, okay? We all have seen that I think in January or early next year, the nutritional labels on our food are going to change a little bit more than they have. The number of calories is going to be much bigger print. And instead of telling you that something this big around has got 8 servings in it when you're going to eat half and your wife's going to eat half, they're going to have a much more normal serving size in there. And everybody in the health business wants you to have good information. Well, there was a study released yesterday. You're going to hear a new term. It's called PACE, P-A-C-E. It stands for Physical Activity Caloric Equivalent or Expenditure. Now, this is really kind of interesting. It is going to have the calories in this piece of chocolate are 245. The activity it'll take to burn up that calorie is going to be a 44-minute walk at the pace of 4 miles per hour, or a 22-minute run at the pace of 8 miles per hour. So when you turn over a cookie thing and it tells you how many calories, it is going to tell you, if this gets through the regulatory system, that to burn up that one cookie, you'll have to walk for 15 minutes or an hour. So you will be better able to understand what the calories mean. Now, is that interesting or not?
Yes.
Now, here's what they did. They did about 15 different studies. None of them were in restaurants, and none of them were in a grocery store. But they had like a cafeteria where they had the pace number and the calorie number in there, and then people chose their meals. Just by placing that there, the average caloric drop per day, per person, was between 200 and 500 calories a day. Just, they chose from the same amount of stuff they would have chose from before, but because they could see in their head how much activity it would take to get over this piece of cornbread or whatever, and that amount of caloric reduction would be associated with a lower tendency to gain weight or would help you lose weight. So I think if that PACE, physical activity caloric equivalent or physical activity caloric expenditure number, can get through the legislatures and get through regulations and get on food, it'll help everybody in this country with the obesity epidemic. How you like that one?
I like it.
You didn't have that one. That's brand new, isn't it?
Yes, that is.
Okay, vaping update. Vaping update. There are now over 3,500 people admitted to the hospital, ventilators and bad vaping. They have not been able to isolate exactly which one of these things it is, but there are 4 separate products. Oh, I'll tell you another thing. 67% of the people that have been admitted are all white. And the age range is what? What's the age, Johnny? What age group people is this huge vaping epidemic like? Are they over 70? Are they over 4? Yeah, got it. 13 years old to 24 years old, mostly male, 67% male, and mostly white. So this is our teenage population in Blue Ridge, Georgia. Now, the products, all the products that seem to be at risk are illegitimate, meaning they weren't put out by Juul and they weren't put out by legitimate companies, and they have vape different names. The one that was in the South was called Dank Vape. Now, I would never buy anything called Dank Vape and use it. The one that was the Midwest and Upper Midwest is called Rove. Then one called TKO, that's a technical knockout, I guess, or Smart Cart. So that's the names that these things most have had in these filling stations and stuff that people have purchased and gotten sick or died from.
Once again,
don't vape.
Once again, Dr. Whaley, great information. We always appreciate you doing this research. He has to go to work now. He works.
I work.
Always got something going on, world traveler, and then takes time to do research for your questions. And we appreciate you very much. You can send your questions to info@fetchyournews.com. Put in the subject line, Ask the Doc. We thank North Georgia Cancer Research, affiliated with Northside Hospital, for this segment. And don't forget, folks, we have so many great segments here. If you will go to our YouTube channel, FYN TV, Fetch Your News, our YouTube channel, subscribe, go to the playlist, and there are so many segments with Dr. Whaley you may want to share with family and friends. Great information on many questions he has answered that may be of interest to you. Hey, look, we'll be right back with the All-Star Political Panel. We got to get him out of here before he tries to say something political. We're going to get him out, right? So anyhow, he has to go to work. You got to get to work, right? And the All-Star Political Panel right after this. Dr. Whaley, thank you very much. Take us to break, Lonnie.